Originally released in 2012, Dishonored is a stealth action game developed by Arcane Studios shortly after they were acquired by ZeniMax Media. The game was praised for its stealth action gameplay, player choice, and overall design. The game has recently been reintroduced to new audiences after it was brought to Xbox Game Pass following Xbox's acquisition of ZeniMax. And the question is, does this game still hold up to its initial critical acclaim nearly a decade later? Let's find out. Dishonored is a stealth action game set in Dunwall, a grim industrial city that is overrun with oppressive technology and death. The city is run by tyrants who have no interest in the citizens that still live there. You will play as Corvo Atano, a man framed for the murder of Empress Jessamine. You are imprisoned for the crime, but eventually will escape with the help of those who you know are innocent. From there, you'll embark on a tour of revenge, settling the score with those who murdered the Empress and framed you for it. The story is good, and there are genuine twists and turns throughout. The way that the story progresses can change depending on the choices you make, and there are multiple endings that are possible depending on how you play. While the story is solid throughout, the culmination of the game prior to the finale is a bit underwhelming. There is a large build-up to what ultimately ends up being an anticlimactic ending. I don't want to spoil what happens, but let's just say that the story drags about 2/3 of the way through and ends with a bit of a thud. Dunwall is not a pleasant place to live, and that is apparent from the beginning. Watchguards roam the street and attack first and ask questions later. Deadly rats who carry the rat plague roam the streets and can grow in numbers depending on your actions. Humans who have been infected by the aforementioned plague are known as weepers. They wander the streets and attack anyone on sight. Tallboys are large robots controlled by the City Watch. They will patrol the city and attack you if you are detected. Dishonored does a lot right, but perhaps the most striking thing it does is its sense of place and its attention to detail. Dunwall feels alive, even though it is enraptured with death. The city simultaneously invites you to explore its many mysteries while also holding danger behind every corner. It is clear you are not welcome in this city, and you are reminded of that every second that you play. And while Dunwall is clearly the star of the game, there is also an underlying tone of dark magic that permeates throughout as you explore the city. Early on, Corvo is able to utilize a number of supernatural abilities granted by the Outsider. They are a magical being that is a physical representation of the Void, a magical alternate dimension. It is not exactly clear who the Outsider is or what the Void really means, but the mystery persists throughout the game and adds an extra layer of depth to an already detailed world. The structure of the game is one of interconnected levels that build upon each other. Each level varies in scope and has a primary objective that is supported by numerous side objectives. The primary one in each level is usually straightforward. Assassinate this person, or gather information about this person, and so on. You will spend a lot of your time in the pub, a home base of sorts where your allies plan your missions and where you can upgrade your gear. From here, you can explore the area, ensure you are stocked with enough equipment, and when you're ready to move on, start up your mission. At the beginning of each mission, you will see an objective indicator on the HUD that gives you a general direction of where to go. From there, you are free to head in any direction you would like. And if you want a more direct navigation system, you can utilize the Heart. The Heart is a mythical beating heart that you will hold in your hand that shows you where all of your objectives are located, as well as where any runes or bone charms might be hidden. Runes are on map pickups that allow the player to unlock or improve your supernatural abilities. You will need to find or buy them in order to grow your power, and the bone charms are essentially perks that give you minor stat bonuses. Each direction you head in Dishonored has a point of interest. There are multiple ways to attack an objective, and each direction has even more branching paths. The game tends to feel like a choose-your-own-adventure game at times, as there are numerous interconnected paths throughout each of the levels. One of these paths that I embarked on involved a man who wanted to know the combinations to a safe that held a number of invaluable riches. If I could find out the code, he promised to take care of my primary objective for me. After multiple steps that culminated in electrocuting an art dealer, I uncovered the code and I brought it to him. He thanked me for the code, and in turn, dealt with my objective for me. A win-win for everyone, right? Well, not exactly. Unbeknownst to him, right before I delivered the code, I had discovered the safe while exploring the world, and I decided to take the valuables for myself. What he doesn't know yet won't hurt him, I suppose? This path is just one of the dozens littered throughout the game, and each of them feels incredibly unique. While there are not as many branching ones as a typical RPG might have, there are enough that each player will likely have a much different story to tell by the time their campaign is done. The true star of the game, though, is the level design. Each of them feels unique and fully realized. Most levels will take place in a section of Dunwall, but they each have their own unique theme. A standard one may see Corvo navigating the city streets, hiding in the shadows, and using the rooftops. One standout level will have you navigating through a mansion during a party. During this fantastic level, you will blend in with the guests while searching for your target. From there, Dishonored's philosophy of player choice really shines through. Will you go guns blazing and murder everyone, or will you gain data, making sure to quietly eliminate your targets in silence? The choice is always yours. And those choices aren't just for show, they have real-world impact. If you choose to engage in high chaos, or, for layman's terms, murder everything, the world will evolve around you. Rats and weepers will grow in numbers. Central characters will grow disgusted with your actions, and the number of guards per area will greatly increase. Also, the final mission of the game will be increasingly difficult if you follow the high chaos path. I chose low chaos for my playthrough, which resulted in far fewer of all the aforementioned things, and overall, a much lower guard presence. Characters liked me, and the medium chaos level felt neatly nestled in between low and high, meaning your rewards and your punishments were in between the two. Dishonored truly shines in its ability to give players choice in how the game unfolds. Each corner of the game has something to uncover and the potential to discover something that will help you along the way. The game thrives on choice and the ability to craft your own narrative, and no two stories will be the same. This philosophy also transfers over to the combat, or if you choose, lack thereof. Corvo is given an ever-expanding group of tools. Initially you have a sword, a gun, and a bow. You can combine these weapons to cause maximum chaos, or use them to silently take out enemies, or ignore those enemies altogether and instead focus on a non-lethal playstyle. Along with these standard weapons are supernatural abilities that range from the ability to teleport to out-of-reach areas, see through walls, slow down time, and more. You can use all of these tools to your benefit and create interesting combinations to give yourself an edge. For my playthrough, I often combined the Dark Vision, which allowed me to see through walls, and Blink, which is the teleport. Using this combination, it allowed me to easily spot all my enemies in a room and quickly teleport to them for non-lethal takedowns. If I wanted to stir things up and use lethal force, I would combine Wind Blast and Bend Time, so I could slow down time and proceed to blow enemies away with the force of wind. There are so many possible combinations that multiple playthroughs are not only possible, but they feel encouraged. As mentioned earlier, the main threat of the game is the city guard that roams the streets. They are a relatively generic type of enemy, sporting swords and guns. They can detect you from a pretty decent distance away, so it can be difficult to sneak past them. But like most AI in games like this, if you keep out of their line of sight long enough, they'll completely forget that you exist within a few minutes. Other enemy types include assassins, who only appear for a brief period of the game. They are more difficult to avoid than the city guard and are nimble, as they can teleport in and out of areas. Tall boys are the aforementioned city guard controlled machines that will cause a lot of damage if they spot you, but they are pretty easy to avoid if you know where you're going. Dishonored is still a very good looking game, even though it started out as a 360 title that was touched up for the Xbox One in the re-release of this definitive edition. It truly looks like a Victorian painting come to life, as the environment and characters look detailed, but they aren't going for a photorealistic look. The game has also been greatly assisted on console by the new FPS boost implementation that was recently added to the Series X. The game runs at a near flawless 60 frames per second, and it makes it both look more vibrant and feel much better to play. It is seriously hard to overstate just how much better the game looks and feels due to FPS boost. It truly feels like the game was remastered, while in reality, it's just an option at the system level for any Series console user. The game is also available on Game Pass, and Dishonored was added last month following the completion of the ZeniMax acquisition by Microsoft. Having such a fantastic game available for essentially free if you already had the service is a tremendous value add, and also ensures that millions of people now have access to a game that absolutely should not be missed. In conclusion, Dishonored is still a great game nearly a decade later. This stealth action title will go down in the history books as one of the best games in the genre that put Arcane Studios on the map as one of the world's best developers. It is incredibly impressive that Dishonored manages to feel like a modern game even though it was released during that 360 era. It really does go to show how incredible the game was when it released and how Arcane Studios was able to make a game that truly stands the test of time. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and if you do subscribe, feel free to tick that little bell. We post surprisingly often, and we will see you here next time on Xbox Era.